I know a couple of us have a tight time frame tonight, so we'll jump right in. First of all, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back. Economic vitality, go, go, go. Glad everybody's here. First little order of business for us. Hi, Jen. How you doing? Welcome.
Thank you.
Did everyone have a chance to review the 2 meeting minutes that were attached to the email for November and September?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Jan.
Hi, a big group was here at Orchard House. I just left them. I haven't even been to the wake yet, but I thought I'm just going to tune in at the beginning of this and apologize for having to leave. But in case there's anything you want from me, here I am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move they be approved as distributed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, ayes. All in favor? Cato, I can't.
Aye.
Okay, all
Aye.
right. That's everybody, so it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Did folks have a chance to take a look? I know we've had some frustration in 2022 trying to get meetings on the calendar, so I figured let's just rip the Band-Aid off and schedule it for the year. And I did follow that sort of methodology of afternoon one time, morning next time. Did that look more or less okay for everybody?
I have one note, Jen,
Okay,
is you have a meeting on April 19th.
I did.
Sorry, that date
that
just
a
rings a
problem?
bell.
Is there
I
something
mean,
happening that day? Okay.
Sorry.
We'll scoot that one. I think I was trying to avoid tax day. So should we bump it a week out and have it, when's school vacation in April?
School vacation's the following week, so we'd need to go back, please.
Okay. All right, well, get your taxes done early, folks. All right, we'll move that one. Other than April, did everything else look okay? Okay, great. Now we know our schedule for the year. I'm going to go ahead and post those meetings and then we can update agendas as we get closer. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Beth, you are up. Updates from the town.
The only thing I will mention is our committee report was due today, last Friday.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, the annual report that goes in the town's annual report. Do you have that from Donna?
Oh, welcome.
I sent a note to Amy.
No.
Okay, it went to all committee chairs, but we know there was some delay and some of them. I will forward you the message right now.
Okay.
And then we can ask for an extension.
Let me just see.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that's just a quick summary of our events from the year. I met you or John must have done it last year. And I will ask Donna to send you the text from last year so you have it.
Okay.
And tomorrow night is a special town meeting for the middle school. All the information is on the town website. And in terms of sort of tourism, it is in fact not a dull January. It is a very busy January. We've had bus tours, groups, education groups, and next week we're hosting a new tour operator from California who's doing a literary writers retreat. So he is going to be meeting with all different attractions and vendors next week to see what he's going to do. He'll be here for 6 visits in June, July, and August. So that's really exciting. I think it's going to be a really nice year for tourism. And one of the goals that sort of Marcia and I talked about this morning was to make sure that there's a monthly newsletter to all the business community with the buses that I know are coming so that everybody has a chance to address staffing concerns and just to make sure that we are sharing as much as we can. There's a new salesperson at the Colonial Inn who's also sending me bus listings. So we will at least have those that are booked at the Colonial Inn and those that are booked through me on the list, which that should hopefully help everybody know when to expect. And then Marcia probably has more stuff to add.
Do you want to see if you can maybe get the Best Western and Marriott to let you know too, or?
The Marriott doesn't get the Residence Inn doesn't get a lot of the groups. It's too expensive and they don't have rooms that can
Okay.
accommodate. So most of them will stay at the Colonial Inn because of the walkability. The Best Western's usually pretty good about sending me if she knows about them. But a lot of the groups we know stay either in Danvers or Waltham, you know, places that they can get those quad occupancies.
Okay, cool.
So, but yes.
All right, Marcia.
Just would like to add that the both cultural districts received grants of $15,000 each from the Mass Cultural Council this year. West Concord Junction will be focused on getting photos and little descriptions of the various West Concord businesses to add to the Visit Concord webpage for West Concord specifically. And then the Concord Center funds are going to be used to update the visitor center map and provide information in multiple languages. So we're trying to anticipate what our needs are for the future, as well as promote the West Concord businesses through Visit Concord.
That's great. Congratulations.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Okay, so there is a pretty important conversation happening right now. Yes, Mark.
Hey, Marcia, I was just looking through the September minutes and sort of trying to do my homework and multitask here. Is there an update on your last day or when that will be, or what is your status?
End of May,
Okay.
May 31st.
And I think in the September minutes, it was suggested that maybe some sort of discussion doesn't need to be a formal exit interview, but just almost like lessons learned, given your tenure and all you've done for the town, and sort of how to springboard the next person. Is that on anyone's radar? Is that on your radar? Is that something that can be done?
The town manager and I are currently discussing it, and I've heard from the Historical Commission that they're hoping to add oral history piece to the records. But other than that, I have not heard anything. I'm sure that there are many things that I have some insights to and a long history. So along the way, I'm trying to convey that information.
Okay, thank you.
Great idea, Mark. Thank you. Also, I'm not sure if folks heard, but the search for an economic vitality officer is well underway. I believe they've already received a first round of applications and are assessing them. I don't know, Marcia or Beth, if either of you have any updates on that. Last I heard is just they're plugging right along and taking a look at candidates.
That work is being done through the town manager's office, so
Yeah.
we're not involved.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Jennifer, if I may just quickly, because I really have to go to this wake and I'm so sorry, but I did want to make sure everybody does know, because it's just an unusual thing. You probably know Little Women is going to be produced by Concord Players in 2023, later in the spring. But we have partnered with them to do a 4-week, we call it a February full of marches. We're having the March Sisters story told the 4 Thursdays of February. You can go on the Players website or our website to get that information. And I just thought it was a fun thing that I'd quickly mention.
That's great. Yeah, it'll be really a lot of fun. Thank you. And
I
sorry,
apologize for having to leave. Thank you.
that's okay. Thanks, Jan. Take good care.
Thanks.
Okay, so I would like to, I'm very grateful to Erin, who is here today to talk through an important project that she's pursuing in Concord Center. So Erin, you want to go ahead and let us know what you're up to?
Absolutely. And I apologize for everyone who's already seen this presentation multiple times. It hasn't changed too much, but maybe you'll learn something new. I'm going to go ahead and share it. Can everyone see that okay? Perfect. All right, let me move it so I can see it a little bit better. So I'm just going to go through the very basics and then we'll dive right into what's actually happening right now. So the Shared Streets and Spaces Grant Program is one that is through Mass DOT. Last year, their project focus was on speed management. And so we submitted the Main and Walden Streets intersection for a project idea, and were awarded a little under $200,000 for our proposed safety and speed management improvements, which we can go through now. So just to sort of set the stage a little bit, this is what Concord Center at Main and Walden looked like in the late 1800s. You can see obviously not very many vehicles. There's people, and you see a lot of tree cover, and that's one of the things that we're trying to really look at when we're doing this project, is to sort of bring us back to that sort of historic character that we love so much in our town center. And here is another shot looking towards what is now Footstock and Main Streets Market. You can see that lovely tree right in between, and the horse and carriage and all the pedestrians. So it's really fun to sort of get the sort of image of what Concord used to be, and then you get what it is now, which is a little bit different. It's what we need now and what we use now, but we're looking to bring a little bit back of that that history and that character, while also making it a safer intersection. So this is what we see today, the current view. And then this was the initial design that we had. It has changed slightly, but I think that this really does a good job of sort of laying out the basics. So what we're proposing is to do 4 separate bump outs where we have combined the ones that are in front of Footstock into one larger sort of pedestrian area, almost like a pocket park. That would eliminate 1 parking space. However, we think that it would be difficult to get in and out of anyways with the bump outs that are going to be greatly improving the visuals for both pedestrians and for vehicles coming through the intersection. And it creates a really nice walkable area. So these 2 spots right here are shade trees that we're looking to add in. So it'll add a little bit of that historic character that I mentioned before, as Concord used to have those lovely tree-lined streets. And to bring some additional shade, which will help with our heat island effect, because we do have so much pavement downtown. It will help some with our stormwater management. And I think it'll add a really lovely sort of ambiance to this intersection here. So we do have the bump outs, which are, as you can see at these 4 corners. There is not one on the main streets side of this portion, mainly because the turn radius that's needed for trucks to come from Walden and turn right onto Main Street could not be done with having this bump out all the way out. It wouldn't fit the regulations that we have to use. And so we want to make sure that our fire trucks and school buses and delivery trucks are able to make that turn. And so we had to keep this essentially where it is. It will be bumped out slightly, but certainly not as far as the other bump outs are going to go. So those are sort of the major changes here, as well as we're looking to put a pattern in the intersection, differentiating the crosswalks from the middle of the intersection, as well as adding this striping to help lead people from, if you ever stand and watch, you'll see cars coming down this way, especially people who aren't from the area, and they'll just go straight. Because if you see, there's nothing here to lead you in the direction. And so they end up sort of in the left turn lane here, and then they sort of correct over. So we're trying to help with that by providing these guiding lines that will help move people through the intersection and hopefully keep them in the lines and not adding to any confusion. So this is another look at that same intersection, but on this one, I will go in so you can see it a little bit better. It shows where all the different drainage points are. So this is something that has come up several times. And if you're ever down there during a storm event, you will certainly see that there is a lot of puddling along where the crosswalk meets the sidewalk, which is currently back here. We're trying to solve that as best we can because of the grade of the intersection. It is quite tricky, but what we are looking to do is we haven't looked to install stormwater grates actually in the crosswalk area, but it'll be wide enough that you won't actually have to cross over the grate in order to use the crosswalk, but it will be there to help prevent any black ice, to prevent any puddling or flooding in that crosswalk area, as well as trying to get any of the water that's coming this way, because the grade of the road does bring water down in this direction. So we're putting a catch basin here as well as in this crosswalk as well. And to capture anything that's going on in here, we have yet another one. So in some ways, it may seem like it's overkill, but we want to make sure that we're really capturing any of that excess water or snow melts, so that we are making sure that this area stays as safe as possible and prevents any additional flooding that could happen. We have also changed this slightly because of that grade that I was talking about before. We've had to slightly alter our original plans, but now I think people are actually more excited about the project, which is great, because we've been talking about making this more defined, not just having it be at sidewalk height, but instead it'll have a little bit more of a curb to it. There's a couple of different options that are floating around, some of which will be determined by costs. One of them is to have it just be sort of a slightly higher than regular curb, something like 6 inches. And then another idea is to have it be sort of like a granite block like we have up at the war memorials. So that would allow for people to sort of perch and have some coffee, check for directions, things like that. So there's a couple of different ideas floating around. It will somewhat be dependent on the bids that we get back when we actually are working to do the construction. But we are paying close attention to that. And we've heard a lot from the community about what they'd like to see here. All right. So I just wanted to show what the real difference is with having the bump outs in terms of your vision. So on the left is the current view of if you have just stepped off of the sidewalk and are now standing in the crosswalk, how far down the road you can see. And on the right is the approximation of where you will be able to see with the bump out. So because it comes to where the parked cars are, you're given that vision past the cars that you currently don't have without standing about 8 feet into the crosswalk. So this will greatly improve your vision of looking down the road. So these are a couple of different views just to show you that. So that's looking down towards the library from that same spot. And this is looking towards the library if you're standing in front of what's now Graham's Nuts. And this is looking down Walton Street. And then because I'm a very visual person, I prefer to see things sort of in 3D when possible, have those images. So I created some renderings to help sort of give people the idea of what this space could look like. These aren't exact, but they give you the general idea. So some of the different pavement options that we've been looking at, because we do want to make it so that when you're approaching this intersection, not only is the road squeezed because of those bump outs, it's going to be visually squeezing the intersection, even if it's not actually changing the width of the road at all. But we also want to alert people that they're coming to an area that is visibly different and has that pavement that alerts you to there's something different about this area. So if you're not if you're not a local, if you don't drive through the area frequently, you'll still pause and say, what's going on here? So on the left is a stamped concrete, which is one of the things that we were looking at. I saw this one up in Vermont. I spoke to the town administrator who worked on the project. They said that it has served them very well and they're very happy with it, but it does have a very long curing time. It takes several days for it to be drivable, even if you use sort of like an accelerant to help it dry faster. But we do like the look of it. And on the right is a polymer cement blend. So that sits on top of asphalt, but dries very quickly. So we could actually have it ready to be driven on in, I think, a couple of hours as opposed to a couple of days. So it's another very interesting option that both are supposed to be very long lasting and fairly low maintenance. Due to the colors, especially, we've been looking more towards the polymer cement. And so I have a few more images of that. So these are close-ups of the brick and the cobblestone look that they have. So these are both products that could be used, and we've in fact been talking about doing the crosswalks in the brick pattern and the middle of the intersection if we were to do that in the more cobblestone look. So what we like about this is that it is ADA accessible. It is easy to repair if need be. They can come in and it's literally done with a stencil. So they can come in and sort of patch if needed. And it has a sort of sand texture to the top, which it gives it sort of a realistic look, but also makes it non-slip. One of the things we also like about this is that for plowing purposes, you don't have to worry about the plow catching on the edge of a brick and pulling it up, or a cobblestone getting pulled up and then having to be relayed later, but we can't do it during the snowstorm. And so now there's a pothole. So this product is flat. It's safe for wheelchairs and for walkers, strollers. So it's a nice, easy product in that way. I went up to Ipswich, where they recently put down both of these pavements, and I was pleasantly surprised with how good they looked. And I spoke to Public Works in Ipswich, and they said that they are liking it so much that they're actually talking about pulling up some of their brick sidewalks that have been deteriorating and putting this in place. So they have been very pleasantly surprised with how good it's been working. And they said, you know, in 20 years, they might be using something else because there may be something better, but they are really liking this at the moment. And then the last thing I think is that, so this is sort of the look that we would be talking about for having in the middle. So this is the cobblestone, as you see on the right. We would probably be looking at more of the cobble brick, which is on the bottom right, because it has a less uniform, a little bit more organic look to it. That's probably more realistic in terms of what actual cobblestones might look like if they were real. And we want to bring those sort of historic characteristics wherever we can. It's not going to look exactly like real brick or real cobblestone, but wherever we can bring those elements in, I think will be really really great to have. And up in Ipswich, they have both real brick and cobblestone close by. And I didn't think that it detracted from the real products that they had there. I think that they complemented each other really well, which I think just goes to show that it's a product that can work. And this is the last slide. It just has that they are both in historic districts that I've seen this. So one's in Salem, or right just outside of the historic district in Salem, and the other one is the historic district in Ipswich. But that is the end of that. So I don't know if anybody who hasn't seen this several times has any questions or comments.
I do, Erin.
Where we like. Yeah.
Okay, I saw Cato first.
Cato?
maybe.
Sorry, I was coming. Two things. I was driving this morning on my way to work and I came down Walden and the cones were out. And it looked great. And then I saw you had people out there today, but I think Jen had the question in the business partnership if that sort of affected that right turn. And it didn't from my perspective where the cones were. So that was great. And then the other one was I was crossing the street today at Vanderhoof's. And I was just wondering, was there discussion about doing it in other spaces? Because at Vanderhoof's, you do have to like pop out a little bit just because the cars are coming around that bend. So I was just curious if that was a budget thing or was it just for that sort of area on Main Street there?
Yeah, so the funding that we have is just for that one main intersection. However, it has been brought up several times that people would like to see this extended in different areas. Could we do this treatment in different intersections? Could we use it throughout town? So I think that there's definitely the possibility. We don't have the funding right now. That does not mean that we wouldn't explore the options in the future. And I think it's something that we've heard a lot of people are very interested in. We're definitely looking to continue that if that's what the community would like to see.
Great, thanks. It does, it looks great though. Thanks.
Yeah, Erin, congrats. I mean, certainly from this committee's perspective, keeping the downtown area safe and easy to get around is certainly important. I see we have we have a few questions, and then I see there's someone here from the public. We'll come back to you at the end just to grab your question. Mike and then Mark.
Thanks, Erin, nice job. What's the timetable?
So the funding has to be used, or ideally will be used by next December. So we're looking to implement this. We're looking to go out for bid in in February. We're in January, in February, and then looking to actually, we were hoping to do construction in the spring, but we're looking to hear what will probably be best from the construction standpoint. So it could be that they say a little bit later in the spring, like May. I said April was a bad time to do it. But looking more like May, and if not, we don't want to necessarily disturb the summer months and how much people we have walking around. So we might be looking towards the fall then, but it'll certainly be done hopefully within this year.
And how long of a project is it? What's the estimated time?
It's expected, with, all goes as planned, a couple of weeks, and we're planning on it being one side of the street and then the other side. So pedestrians, vehicles will still be able to get through the intersection, no problem. There may be some detours if there's, heavy machinery moving around at one point of the day or the other, but we're expecting traffic to be able to continue to move through fairly easily.
A couple of weeks, is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, Erin, you may want to connect a little bit with the chamber and some of the businesses, because May and June, you've got Mother's Day, Memorial Day weekend, graduations, the wedding season. Those are all really important to the retail shops that are down there. So I would just recommend that you connect with Marie and the chamber on that.
Yeah, I've been in touch with Marie, and definitely trying to make sure that
Yeah, I know it's
not
not
a good time to do it.
Mark, you had a question?
I just wanted to add that while stuff is kind of crazy up through April 19th, the 2 weeks after that, I mean, the school vacation is 1 week, so there's going to be a lot less traffic and stuff around here. So, if you could get it done just starting right after the April 19th holidays and avoid going into May, as Jennifer said, that for a lot of retailers, that's that's an important month.
Yeah, I will say that a couple of weeks is the timeline that we've been working with. However, there could be other constraints being put on us by the construction company. For instance, they're working on multiple projects at once, or they can't get materials in time. So that's our hope, and that's what, or at least that's my hope. But just as we know, when we look at, for instance, I was saying this morning how you could have it in the drawings that the conduit that you're avoiding is, right in the center of the sidewalk, and then it turns out, well, it's about a foot to the left, and you didn't quite know that it wasn't quite drawn correctly, and then we have to adjust things. So obviously the timeline might shift, but we're hopeful that it'll be a fairly quick turnaround.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear from Mark. You have a question, and then Dawn and Jen, you're both from our retail community. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Mark?
Aaron, couple questions. The right turn from Main Street to Walden, is that the same or is that negatively impacted?
The right turn from Walden onto Main, sorry.
No, the other way around.
Oh, from Main onto Walden. No, it shouldn't be changed really at all. It'll be a slightly, it'll just be shifting where you're turning. But we're actually staying within, we're just tightening the radius a little bit. So it shouldn't be any more difficult to make that turn.
So the fire truck who we were thinking about would go from Walden to Maine, you can go from Maine to Walden without a problem.
Yes, all the turn radiuses can be done by any trucks.
And is there any thinking, I saw in one of your pictures, they had bollards on the edge. Is there any thinking to put bollards to protect, sort of people who are standing or pedestrians who are going to be, on the sidewalk, if you will?
Oh, sorry, let me pull this up because I was trying to,
unfortunately, last few years, we've had instances where cars go up onto to sidewalks. And
yeah, so we haven't planned for that. With the this bump out over here, the largest one, this will be high enough that it would be difficult for someone to mistake it as being pavement. I think especially with having those trees there. There will also be on the corners here to help with any stormwater. There will also be, and because of the grade of the road, there will be those higher curbs as well, which I think while we're not putting in bollards, I think it will assist with sort of letting people know where the roadway is versus the sidewalk.
yeah, I guess I'm not really speaking to people confusing the sidewalk with the road. I'm unfortunately concerned about distracted drivers and people who aren't paying attention running up on top of that sidewalk.
I see.
Was there any thought to putting a bench or maybe a bike rack between the trees, or any thinking about that?
Yeah, it's been brought up a lot. So it's not a part of this project, but it's something that we're looking to leave it open for right now to sort of see what the community wants once it's installed. Because I think that once you see the space, you'll sort of get a feel for what we'd like to see there. We've heard a lot about bike racks. We've heard a lot about benches. I do think that if we go with a larger piece of granite here in this space, it, like I said, it could be a sort of a nice spot to sort of perch on. We've also had people ask about having these be large enough planters that somebody could maybe sit on the edge of it. So it's definitely something that we're thinking about, and we'll see what the costs look like when we get those in.
A final question. So is the cost going to be net neutral to the town, or will there be an incremental cost above the grant?
We are expecting the entire project to be covered by the grants. I think if anything, there might be a couple $1,000s over, like, 2 or 3, which we could likely absorb into some other budgets, but we are expecting this to be within the budget.
Great, thanks.
I do see a question from John Cooley. John, can you just tell us your address and give us your question?
Yep. Let me know if you can't hear me, or if you can hear me, I guess. 80 Highland Street, and I'm also liaising from the WCAC. But I had 2 questions. One, could you just restate the grant program that's funding this real quick?
Sure, it's the Shared Streets and Spaces grant is through Mass DOT.
Okay, got it. And then the second question is, can you just elaborate a little more on the design choice for polymer concrete over a real brick. Specifically, how does it compare on cost and ADA compliance with real brick?
Sure. So the real brick, what we've heard is that at least with newer brick, it tends to break more easily, and it doesn't hold up as well over time. It also tends to shift over time with either vehicle traffic moving over it will sort of compress some of the bricks and move others. It can catch on the edge of a snowplow. It can catch on the edge of wheelchairs and strollers and mobility devices, so that it is typically not the most accessible product. What we liked about this polymer cement is that it is essentially flat. It does have a slight texture to it so that it looks visually like bricks, but it is a very slight difference. And because it's essentially a stencil, so it is extremely flat. It is something that is ADA accessible. And I went to the Commission on Disabilities, and they were very pleased with this as a solution to try to keep the character, but also make it so that it is friendly for anything that might catch on the edge of a true brick or stone.
I think he was also asking about the cost differential. Do you have
Sure. Thank you. So we did not cost out bricks because we were advised that they are very costly, and but the prices that we got, or the prices that I got for the intersection as a whole, was from, I believe, Newburyport. It was part of some of their bid documents that were for a similar size area, and it was in the last couple of years, so I used that as the estimate. But the cost of real bricks, especially because there is labor in laying all of the bricks individually, and it takes much longer to dry because of the mortar and things like that. So we were also looking at that as a consideration.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have a question for Erin? Thanks very much for taking the time to present it, Erin. It's really great that you were able to find a grant to cover this work, and it's wonderful to help make that intersection a little safer for people to hang out and get through. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, guys. I think for the moment we're gonna maybe bump the idea generation to when Marie can be here with us, because I do want to have someone from the Chamber of Commerce present. But I think now is a good time to at least introduce the concept. As I'm sure everyone in this committee is well aware, Rev 250 is not as far away as it seems. We are just about 26 months away from the 250th anniversary of April 19th. We have many aspects of the community working on preparations for Rev 250 in formal capacities. But this committee here, I think it would be pertinent for us to just be thinking about, as it relates to commerce and tourism, what, if anything, can we be doing to ensure that we have sufficient infrastructure to support both our tourism and our commerce as we lead up to a very busy year. Beth, I know you've said that we can expect around 1.5 million visitors that year, up about 50% from our.
Yeah, I mean, estimates are about 200 to 250,000, and it's really hard to estimate. That's just based on past areas
Right.
that have gone through this.
That's just for
anniversary.
April, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking about the whole year, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the year right now is at 1.1, give or take. If you look at the national park numbers. So I would assume we'll get closer to 1.5 over the course of the year, because we know that there's this hope that we're spreading out events throughout the year. So we're not getting all those people in April.
And, certainly I know there's a lot of activity to help start to get ready for that. The trolley program, so glad to see that was successfully completed. You don't have any updates on the FLAP grant at this point, do
We
you?
have not heard from the FLAP grant.
Okay,
We
Well-
are still in a holding pattern.
fingers crossed. One of the big questions I had, and of course, there's some warrant articles out there addressing food trucks and fast food, and this group discussed that in our November meeting. But I think it's important for us to be thinking around, particularly that sort of crunch time. And this really speaks to the onboarding of whoever will become our economic vitality officer. The recruiting of businesses, or the proactive marketing of come to Concord and set up your business, I think will be really key between now and Rev 250 in trying to attract the type of businesses that we will need. So I just wanted to take some time in this committee to kind of open that up as a conversation, to hear your thoughts. What, if anything, should this committee be doing to kind of highlight that? I think an important first step will be getting that economic vitality officer on board and kind of onboarding them and sharing our thoughts. But what else do you think would be appropriate for this committee to be pursuing in 2023 as we look ahead to Rev 250? So just want to open that up to the committee. Mark?
I'll jump in. And I think it's on your agenda, Jen, and, sort of telecommunication infrastructure, I'll let you speak to it, or Jen Clark, but, clearly I think now's the time to provide the town with the impact statements they've requested, to make sure there's no ambiguity as to the need and urgency to have this fixed. And I don't know, from a technology perspective, if it's actually putting up a new tower, or if it's just boosting the capabilities we have today. But it seems like that needs to be, foremost. You double, triple, quadruple the people in and around town. The problems that we've heard about during the tree lighting are just going to be exacerbated tenfold.
Jen Clark, do you want to take a second and just kind of run us through, what is an ideal support point, you think? Do you want to see a letter of support from the committee overall, from individual businesses highlighting challenges they've had, both? What are your thoughts?
Sure. So Jen Clark, 96 Blueberry Lane, but since I'm not a member of this committee, I guess I'm general public, and also representing the Concord Business Partnership. So I don't want to speak for the town, but I did connect with Chris Cormati yesterday. Am I saying his last name correctly? He and I met yesterday in person, and I shared with him what we were trying to do at the partnership, which was to capture some of the business voices of what disruption of service could mean. It's more than just dropped calls. It's, handheld device transactions at sidewalk sales. It's visitors saying they're trying to make a reservation at a restaurant and can't get through, kind of situations. So, again, I don't want to speak for the town, but what Chris had asked the partnership to provide, it's actually a little different than a letter of support. It's examples of how disruption impacts business. And we've had a few members who have been very exact on where their calls always get dropped. And then I think some people just speaking generally to nuisances. So I think on behalf of the EVC if there was an opportunity, particularly as you all are talking about visitor foot traffic, the Rev 250 coming up. But it would be, as I said, not necessarily a letter of support to go forward with the cell tower exploration, but just to talk about how maybe within this group, how that disruption, what it could look like. So you don't have to necessarily come to consensus. It could be done individually, but, or at least to ask the EVC to ask the town to consider this work.
Well, for example, during COVID, Main Street's Cafe tried an innovative approach to keep things kind of hands off. They put QR codes on their outdoor tables to let people order food from their handheld devices. And it wouldn't work because they didn't have internet. And I've heard from multiple restaurant owners in particular that trying to do any sort of handheld payment devices, there's several apps that let you pay you know, over your app, or even just the handheld devices to bring outside. A lot of challenges there. And that was a good mention, Jen, of sidewalk sales and sort of those card swipe machines. Beth, then Mark, then Cato, sorry.
Thanks, John. So Chris is actually working on a really, like, it's a very whole program. So he has gone to town departments for impact statements. So because of that, I've done an impact statement from the tourist viewpoint, and I talk about parking meters and downloading the directions. And, you know, if we want to use less paper, the national park doesn't want to print maps, you know, to save cost. You can't download the national park walking map. You can't rent a bike. You can't make a phone call. My tour guides carry cell phones for emergencies. If they don't work, then we have other problems for public safety. So I actually talked to him in December, and I thought he was going to send a note to all the committees as well. He maybe just have not gotten to that yet, asking for those particular impact statements. So I'm happy to follow up with him from this committee and just see if there's any sort of formality or any kind of format he wants us to use, because then we could share that out with the committee. And I think the chamber is going to do the same thing. So my vote would be as many exact things that we can relay, the better, because, you know, when in his role, he can't always think of it, the touch points. To Jen's point, you know, we think about the tourists, we think about public safety, obviously, we think about, you know, employees, you know, your employees. And so I think it's a large project, and I'm hoping that we can, you know, all contribute to sort of that.
Right. The parking meter is a great point too, Beth. That's lost income to the town. Right. Yeah. Mark?
So I think, Jen, if we're looking for, I think it's really, you know, this committee minding or recommending or asking the select board to prioritize this. And I'm not sure what the other priorities are, and I'm sure parking meters and other things are on the list. And I know, you know, that the town manager is clearly prioritizing it. And as far as the actual impact statements, I think they need to come from people, business owners, residents, as opposed to committees. So I think we can note that we've heard input, and we've recommended constituencies, you know, who are interested in the town's business to go out and, you know, contact Chris and relate their own stories. But if it's needed, and I suspect it is, the select board should understand this is, you know, if not the top priority, and a top 5 priority when we think about Rev 250.
Okay, great. Cato?
I've actually been meaning to do my statement as a business owner downtown who can't take a phone call on my cell phone when I'm in my office, and oftentimes gets a voicemail that comes through when I get home of someone who was trying to reach me. And, you know, hopefully that never happens when there's a serious insurance claim happening. So I'm going to send that same. I do think we should send a letter from our group as well.
Mhm.
But one of my other questions was for Mike, because I think, Mike, you were on the select board when this came up last time, maybe, and maybe get some input from you or some thoughts. But when we did a little research on from the business partnership standpoint, Elizabeth Ackhurst-Moore had come up with that technically Concord's in violation of a Telecommunications Act because of the sort of lack of coverage in Concord Center. I don't know how that relates to sort of select board or even just town manager making a decision on putting a cell tower on top of Monument Square or wherever. If you have any sort of thoughts on that.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Kato. Yeah, this was I think, a big disappointment not to have been able to move forward on this when we were on the select board and then we had the switching of town managers. If I was still on the board, Mark, I think, and other people have got it exactly right. I'd want a letter from you guys laying this stuff out in cold, stark terms. And if there's other issues aside from the telecommunications capability, I think it should be quite straightforward and blunt with the select board so that they understand the potential impact of not addressing these issues that might have on the town. And I'd also, I don't know if you know, but I'm on the state commission for the celebration of the 250th anniversary. And, there's a lot of activities that are being planned. I think Beth indicated just not just in April, but there's all kinds of activities. And I suspect we'll see an increased visitation rate, for the months before and certainly the months after. And the town, I believe, should be setting aside money to deal with the increased costs associated with managing that influx of people. I suspect that the commission is going to be speaking with the governor very soon and indicating that the commission would like invitations extended to the president. Some people have talked about invitations to members of the royal family. I don't know how that'll play, but I'm fairly confident that the president will be invited. And so you can imagine the police and security details that will descend upon the town. If any of you remember from 1975 when President Ford was here, it was just a complete zoo and cost the town and the national park tens of thousands of extra dollars. So
And all those people need somewhere to stay. They need to eat. There's things they're going to want to buy. They have to be able to move around. They have to park. And they need to be able to use their cell phone. Can you imagine if the president of the United States is here and the Secret Service can't take a phone call in an emergency?
They've got magic.
That's true. They have their.
They have magic Wi-Fi.
Mark?
Again, I hate to use this as a stick for the town, but, just imagine the scenario where there's a life-threatening incident and, there's a delay because of inadequate coverage, people aren't responding in time. And so, I think the town's legal exposure should be, as important, if not more important than the business community's need for parking meters and other things.
I'm surprised, frankly, something hasn't happened over the last couple of years because of the safety concerns that were expressed a couple of years ago in this. And the town simply needs to get moving on this and get this problem solved.
All right, well, certainly, I think it sounds like a next step would be to draft a letter that, do we have to vote on that, or can we simply circulate it and get individual responses back to me and then send it?
Well, you need to be careful of open meeting law, so
Right.
But if everybody sends stuff, if you send it to everybody and then everybody sends just back to you.
Exactly. We're okay then, right?
We're okay.
Yeah, okay. Mark?
So, Jen, I guess the question really is, does the committee think it's really the sole issue?
No, but I think we shouldn't wait. I think we should highlight this issue right now. And then there will be many issues, I think, around Rev 250 But this one is pretty vital, and it's going to be a long solution process. And I think we might dilute our argument if we lump it together with other topics, but I certainly see us highlighting and requesting other focal points as well. But I think this one probably deserves a dedicated letter. Sorry, Mike, I think you're muted.
Sorry, I'd get the letter off on this communications issue. And
Yeah.
then I'd follow up if there's other issues that the committee wants to bring to the attention of the town. I don't think a second letter is inappropriate at all.
Okay. All right, well, let the record show that we will put together these thoughts in a formal communication. I'll send them out. Please be careful. Open meeting law, just respond to me. We'll consolidate everything and get that letter out right away. I want to be mindful of our time. We do have a couple of members of the public here who have been patiently waiting with their hands. Is there anything else on this topic that folks want to make sure is in that letter? I've taken notes of what everyone said so far. Okay, in that case, Carlin, thank you for patiently waiting.
Sure, thanks. Carlin Reed, 83 Wits End. I'd like to see a copy of that letter in final form. I'm hoping you make it public because I think other people can use that as a springboard to emphasize your point. My background's telecom, and I'm just appalled at this service in Concord Center. It's just frightening and needs to be changed. So I'd like to help you, but I can't do it until I see that letter. So please make it public if you can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Mark.
So Jen, I don't know what you envision as far as the length and the detail, but if this is going to be a substantial letter, I for one would like to see the letter before it goes out, if it's going to bear this board's blessing.
That's what I said. It will be sent out. Everyone will have a chance to give their feedback. Absolutely. Yeah. And anyone who wants to send me some thoughts, warmly welcome. Again, though, just one-on-one communication, please. And Carlin, thank you. That's a really good recommendation, because I think we'd like to encourage others to be sending letters of concern as well. Does anyone know, is the Concord Bridge going to be highlighting the sort of call for commentary, or is maybe we should reach out to them as well?
I think they'd be happy to. They're covering the tomorrow night's meeting extensively. So they seem to be very active. So I'm sure if we reached out to them.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Can I jump in for a sec?
Yes. Yes.
My recommendation would be to talk to Chris Cormati. I think he has a very thoughtful and deliberate approach, recognizing that very loud voices rose to the top and dominated the conversation the last time. So I think he wants to be, again, I don't speak for him, but he's deliberate and thoughtful. So I would funnel communications through Chris and identify yourself as a partner. But I think for us to, or not for us, I'm not on this committee, but to alert news organizations at this time might be.
I meant more after we submit our letter, et cetera.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're right. Things need to be done in the right order. And you're absolutely right about, we've seen this play out a few times on key questions that come up in the town, where a small but mighty voice comes up and sort of maybe prevents things that a larger group might like to see go through. So I would encourage everyone to just spread the word, to send individual letters as well, but we definitely will send a letter from the committee as well. Okay, great. Any other comments from the public? I want to thank you for being here tonight. Guys, I'm sorry to stop right at 5:30, but there a couple of us have a hard stop. So I'm glad to see you all again. This was very productive. Thank you. And see you again next month, and look for an email from me. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Take good care.
Yeah, I think we need a vote to adjourn.
I was
Oh,
just gonna
gosh.
say that.
I do.
You're not
Sorry.
gonna vote.
Okay, can someone move to adjourn, please?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.